my kids have become political as teenagers largely because of social media. They didn't discover Charlie because of me. They like to say that I discovered Charlie because of them, which I don't think is true. Nevertheless, and of course, having a young boy, he really resonated with Charlie's message. Charlie had a very unique way of speaking to young boys in a culture that has diminished them and essentially told them that they're needed. He empowered them to be better husbands, better boyfriends, better sons, better fathers. And I found it very encouraging that that was a message my son was resonating with. I came to learn actually only last night that my daughter was also a pretty big fan. I didn't appreciate that. I didn't know that until yesterday. That said, I was invited to speak at Turning Point USA at the Student Action Summit. Kind of surprised to get that invite, I'm going to be honest, because I thought, well, I'm certainly not going to be adhering to the narrative. I'm more of a centrist, to be fair. And I, of course, jumped at the opportunity because I actually really respect Charlie Kirk, despite some of our differences in opinion on particular issues. And my son, of course, flipped out. I was incredibly excited. And he was on vacation with his other mom. And I said, honey, I'm working the entire week. Like, you're going to have to take an unaccompanied minor trip to get to LA, an unaccompanied minor trip to get to Miami. And then you can fly with Uncle G, who's my business partner, from Miami to Tampa. But it's going to be it's going to be a nightmare. And you're going to have to travel alone. He's like, I don't care. I don't care. I'll do it. Whatever needs to happen. And sure enough, he did do it. He took all 3 flights and he accompanied me throughout the entire day's events. He got to listen to all the different speakers. But most importantly, at the end of the day, I was doing Charlie's podcast. And at this point, I think Charlie had been up since 5 in the morning, and it was probably 5:30 in the afternoon, and it was maybe day 3 of this event. And he was exhausted, even though he didn't admit it. I can only imagine. I don't know if I empathized, I understood. I've been there before. Um, Nevertheless, we end up doing this podcast together. And he's about to be done for the day. And I was like, Charlie, would you mind? My 13-year-old is here. And he's a fan. I'm sure you're tired. I hate to do this. And he's like, absolutely, where is he? And he ended up stopping, having a moment with him, shaking his hand, looking him in the eye, taking a picture, and giving my son exactly what he took 3 planes to get. Now, as a public figure, I know what it feels like to be on hour, at that point, 14, 4 days in a row. And you're just like, you don't have it to give. You want to get home to your family. You want to get home to your kids. You want to try to sleep. You have a million emails that you have to get through for the next day. And what Charlie was going through, obviously, was far much, what Charlie had to do work-wise was far greater, by the way, than any schedule I've ever had to adhere to. And he stopped and he did it and he made my son feel special. And that was really special to me, obviously, as a mom and as a public figure who's been that spread thin and that tired.